just for you. Okay, has it been 5 minutes yet? I have faith in divine guidance and in my ability to manifest the life of my dreams. Would you like to say it with me?
Yeah.
Should I just say it part and you say that with me? Yeah. So I have faith in divine guidance.
I have faith in divine guidance.
And in my ability to manifest the life of my dreams.
And in my ability to manifest the life of my dreams.
I hope you're having good dreams. So it's so funny, I sit there on the front row and like when I was younger, I would like spout off from the front row, but I've been holding it in now that I'm older. And so some things I've saved up. One, green food? What was it? Is this? I was thinking, is this? Sometimes you don't hear all the announcements, like your mind drifts, you don't hear all the announcements. Does this have something to do with St. Patrick's Day? Okay. Healthy food, green, yeah, and health, yeah. Okay. I heard another one. You're talking about somebody good one, her quote about if you wait till everything's perfect to make a move, you won't get anywhere, or something like that. And I heard a quote. Have you heard of someone named Ashley Brilliant?
Yeah. Yes.
Like totally tongue-in-cheek, silly man. I've just seen his books, like the Friend's Toilet, Racks of Toilets. And there was one quote I love. He said, if there's something that's really important to you, like a project you really want to get done, and if you work on it just a little bit every day, you'll get really far behind. I love that. Okay. Well, my talk is called Leap, Look, and Listen. And what I'm going to look at is three major turning points in my life, and the spiritual lessons that are kind of inherent in those turning points, and how those spiritual lessons apply to all of us. So each section is one's based on leap, one look, and one listen. And but I have a joke I want to also share with you before I get things started. So this is about a guy who dies and goes to heaven. Okay, so he shows up at the pearly gates. The only thing is he has this sack over his shoulder. St. Peter sees this and says, I'm sorry, sir, no earthly belongings allowed. And the guy kind of moans, well, you got to let me bring this in. And I'm sorry, that's the rules. But this is like the essence of all my work on earth. And by now, St. Peter's curious what could be so important in this sack. Okay, so the guy sets the sack down, and St. Peter opens it up to look in, and he reaches in, and he pulls out the entire contents, which is these 10 bars of gold. These 10 gold bricks. St. Peter's looking at the gold and looking at the guy, and he says, so, you want to bring in pavement?
Give him to the street department.
So, I think it's a cute joke. There's a little message there, too. Sometimes maybe we get off course about what really has value in our lives.
Right.
And these three turning points in my life really have a lot to do with finding a true value in what's happening. So, leap, look, and listen. So the leap part of my story has to do with how I became to be doing what I'm doing today. You know, I loved playing music as a kid. I started as an 8-year-old learning ukulele from my mom in the living room on the outskirts of Houston, where I grew up. And immediately just I was even singing before that. And one thing led to another. I learned piano. My grandma saw this and said, we got to get piano lessons. So around age 10, I started piano for a couple of years, and then in junior high, where Betty and I went together. They had 3 options: choir, band, or orchestra. And I was loving, listening to these orchestra recordings my parents had. So I chose to play bass violin. So now here's my 3rd instrument. Next, my friends and I were going to form a garage band and be like the Beatles. So they say, well, you're playing bass. Now you play electric bass. You be like Paul. And so I'm playing bass. And as in those rehearsals, I watched the guitar player and thought, I was kind of like a big ukulele. I thought I could learn guitar. So anyway, just loving music as a kid. Comes time for college, thinking, well, seems like a no-brainer, I'll be a music major. And my dad had a little talk with me. And he was a great, very supportive dad. He really was very open in the way he said it. But he said, you know, you could definitely do music. Just so you know, Charlie, you know, musicians often end up traveling a lot. It might be hard to raise a family. And I remember thinking, well, I do want to have a family. I grew up in a great family. I want to do that. And I do have a 26-year-old son. I did end up getting married, in spite of being a musician. But so I went to college thinking, well, I'll just kind of pause. I had no major for 2 years, tried business for a year, that wasn't it. Eventually wandered I ended up getting a 5-year degree in architecture. So I'm, you know, trained through the professional degree as an architect, so I graduated, started working in big professional firms, you know, high-rise buildings in Houston. And but I was sitting there in my cubicle, you know, thinking, is this it? It's like, I mean, it's safe. I have my regular paycheck, my insurance, you know, my benefits and all that. But I also felt like, I don't think this is me. You know, I don't think this is it. And kind of like I was dying a slow death in this cubicle, you know, wondering where am I supposed to be? And, you know, the question is, you know, what am I doing here? I'm in this thing, what am I doing here? Maybe you've asked that question sometime. And so I'm sitting about drafting away, like, what am I going to do? And I sorted the architects and engineers walking by my cubicle. They had to be looking in, seeing me and thinking, what is he doing here? You know, if it's not a fit, other people probably notice too. But anyway, here I am with my paycheck, my benefits package, but it felt like I was dying a slow death. You know, not being who I was. I like to call it my slow death with benefits. But anyway, so that was happening, and then I did begin to be on my spiritual journey. Ended up connecting, you know, with some spiritual groups, meditation groups, and the music that I'd been writing for a few years, it was shifting and started to reflect my inner journey. And a friend of mine heard this, and she said, you know, I know a group of people that would love this music you're writing. She said, have you ever been to a Unity church? I said, no. But, well, there's one in town. Let me give you a phone number. You should connect with the people there. And I called, and they said, oh, come on by. We're having a music rehearsal. We'd love to have another male voice. I walked in the door, and it just felt like instant family. You know, instant community. Like, wow. These are my people. And not to exclude, but it just felt, I felt like that's home. And so I started to be a part of this music, you know, group, you know, doing productions a few times a year. It was actually as much of adults. So I started doing it was like it reminded me of being in elementary school. We were doing like elementary school programs, but we were adults. You know, like singing. Because, you know, but it was good. It was fun. And then I started to do a solo on Sunday every now and then. I remember my first solo. It was a big church, 500 people, and my knees they had to have been knocking together, just like, you know, the energy of just being in front of all that. But I knew it was my personal firewalk to walk through that fear, because I felt like this is calling me. Sure, it's time to read this again. To manifest the life of my dreams. This is my heart calling me where I'm supposed to be. And so I got more and more used to being in front of people, and it's not that hard. I have this image, it's kind of like, you know, awareness is energy, right? And if you're standing, if you were up here and everyone's focus is on you, it's almost like everyone out there is a car battery with a cable connected to you. And you have a choice to get freaked out by it or to work with it and let's do something with this. And I was at first just like freaked out by it, but then you know, you get your sea legs. It's like, this is what I'm supposed to do. So I did more solos. Then the two music directors, Owen and Shanti, were their names. They invited me to go to another Unity about an hour away to go do morning service, afternoon concert. So okay, sure, I've never done that before, and went, just had a great time in the service. But what really got my attention was the afternoon concert. Because we had time to just take 2 hours and just kind of run with the music and let it take us to these deeper places in us. You know, the music is not about the music for its own sake. It's like, what do we awaken with the music? What's inspiring? What's awakening? And at the end of that concert, I said, oh my God, I have to do this. You know that feeling where you can't not do something? And Monday morning, I gave my 2 weeks notice at work. I said, I have to go. And I don't know how it's going to work. I remember feeling like I'm going to step out and walk on water here with no visible means of support. Somehow it's going to work. And it did. And this is 33 years ago. Tomorrow was my first day. Tomorrow, for 30 years, tomorrow was my first day of fully being in this career full time. And what I noticed was that no matter, you know, I had a little bit of savings, so I put a lot into my first recording. But, you know, with every step, somehow I was covered. Money would show up, somehow it was always enough. And there was a great trust, the real trust walk. That's the leap we're talking about here. And I also noticed there was something that was very helpful. Maybe you've heard of it. It's overdraft protection. That was very handy for about 10 years. Thank you God for that. You know, and so you write the checks, you leave town, and go harvest some more to put in the bank so that it's covered and you're good. So that was my leap. And so I want to ask you, what is your next leap? You know, maybe you're not about to do this big, vast career change like I did, but is there some mission, some calling in the back of your heart, some project that you've been thinking, I really need to do this, and some way that it's a part of being in service to others, so that your inspiration then begins to inspire others? Is there some way that you've been sitting on the bench and not getting into the game? And the beauty is, you're going to get more enlivened from doing it. It's not just about doing it for others. But I want to ask you something. Do you remember, maybe there's someone in your past, on your spiritual journey, that was a real turning point person for you? Like, they made a difference. You know, they inspired you. And we can be that for the next person. It's almost like there's someone out there waiting for you to pick them up. Let's all breathe. I need to breathe. It helps if the room breathes. So what's your next leap to be in service? To be what your heart's calling is? To get that project off the back burner of how you can be in service. I feel like I've used up my whole time on leap, and I still got to look and listen to go. So I kind of stretched it. The look part of my story has to do with an experience that happened early in my spiritual journey. I was camping in Colorado, and there was a Healing Arts Festival in Aspen. And as there were some very famous speakers in the daytime, in the evenings there were just free workshops. I wandered into a workshop that said something about higher consciousness. And I remember as soon as I walked in the door, there was a man and woman leading it, and I saw something in their eyes. I felt like that there was this deep peace, like this real presence. So I immediately, it kind of established a feeling of trust, and I was curious, I wonder what they're doing. You know that feeling, like, I want to know what you're doing. So it was like a 2-hour workshop, and I came in, they talked, they did a few things. The only real thing I remember about that workshop was, and it was many years ago, was an exercise where they had us partner up. I didn't know anybody there, so I found, they said, sit across from a stranger. Well, they said, sit across from somebody. And for the next 20 minutes, just sit in silence, looking in each other's eyes. Now, my first thought was, we're going to do what? But wouldn't that make you nervous? Some of you, well, probably would. And in fact, let's do that right now for the next 20 minutes.
Practice.
So I thought, well, okay. But I remembered I saw something in their eyes I trusted, so let's see what this leads to. And so I found some guy, and we sat across from each other, and they said, okay, begin. And my first thought was, oh my God, he can see into my soul. Yeah. I feel so exposed, and felt vulnerable. And then my next thought was, what? It's only been 2 minutes? Okay, here we go. So there's a lot of mind chatter, and just kind of that active mind, and just You know, what am I doing here? But at the end of the workshop, they said, you know, we're doing another event in 4 days. If you'd like to come back, you're welcome to. And I felt called. I ended up doing that exercise many, many, many times, as it turned out. And the more I did it, the more I got to that empty space between the thoughts. You know, it wasn't just chattering mind. It was that stillness. I began to be able to identify that and be in that place. And then more and more I started to have a being to being, that soul connection in the eyes. It may have been fleeting, but just starting to see that connection. And then a new thing happened. The more I did it was, I got to this place where I began to be able to tell. I could tell when the other person's mind was either still or when it was chattering. I could see the difference, or I could know the difference. And how is that possible? Well, I think as we get more still and more still, we come to that connection where we truly are one. You know, then we're starting to hang out in our oneness. And then I just know that. So then we did a marathon on a Saturday. A bunch of us got together and decided to do, we did a 20-minute set in silence, and then took a quick break, came back, did another 20 minutes, same partner, quick break, another set of 20 minutes, a quick break, a fourth set of 20 minutes. Somewhere about halfway through that fourth set, I had become so merged with my partner that there was this moment where I couldn't remember which body I was looking out of. It was just, we'd hit that bedrock, the bedrock of our oneness. And that changed my life. It doesn't mean I'm enlightened and don't have issues to deal with, but I see you differently now. I see me differently now. Because I've touched that place. And it didn't require me reading a stack of books this tall or going 3 years to ministerial school or whatever. It's just to stop and drop into who we are. I am spirit. I know over the years I've seen that maybe there's fear about looking in each other's eyes. But think about this. Earlier we were singing, I am spirit. I think spirit would be happy to look spirit in the eyes. But sometimes we create these membranes of fear, like they keep us separate instead of just saying what's true. We can just relax and drop into who we are in the bigger picture. The oneness. It's even the name of this church, if you think about it, unity. It's that oneness. It just means oneness, right? Oneness. To truly look, to truly see. And how does this apply to you? You may never sit for 20 minutes in silence across from someone. But I think you've noticed over the decades, when I was a kid, you would always avert your eyes walking down the street with strangers, but more and more, I think we are engaging and seeing each other. The person at the cash register, the checkout line, the many ways that we engage and open to see more deeply. So I invite you to just be a little bit more at ease with that. And even with people, you may have a lot of concepts around, like family members. We have a lot of stories wrapped around family members, right? What if we could kind of peel that away and see the I am spirit self and even those people? We are one. We step into that to truly see, to truly look. So leap, look, and then my final lesson I want to share with you has to do with listen. And this is a revelation that came to me around my songwriting. You may not think of yourself as a songwriter, but this will apply to you, you'll see. So for me, songs would just come when they came. I'd be lying in bed and hear music, or walking down the street, and the rhythm of my beat would kind of set it like a drum, and I'd start to hear music going with it. And I'd run to try and record it somewhere before I lost this new song. Then there came a day when I wanted to write a song for someone on her birthday. And this is not how it works. You don't get to choose the day, but I got out my guitar and my blank piece of paper and my recorder, and I remember I was sitting there thinking, well, what would be a good chord progression? I don't know. And I tried playing something. It wasn't really flowing. It really was about thinking. And it was just clumsy and effortful and didn't really sound like music. However, in the middle of that little session, I heard a voice. And this was very unusual for me. So I was like, wow, I really heard that voice. And it said 3 things. It said, close your eyes, shut up, and listen. And I felt pretty emphatic. It's like, okay. So I did. So I closed my eyes. I got quiet. And in the silence, I began to listen. And it was just quiet for a little while. And I started to hear this little melody coming in. This little whisper of a melody. I'd never heard it before, and I remember thinking, that's pretty. And so I sang that to the recorder. And then I listened some more and heard some more, and I sang that. And then after I had enough of the melody, I picked up my guitar to see what chords went with that. And I started to have words come and started singing that to the tape recorder, and then started writing words on a piece of paper. And from getting out of the way with this new songwriting method, suddenly I had a new song within 30 minutes. Like, wow. Just from being silent, going into the silence and listening, and being available to a greater source. And for me, what it felt like was this, like there's this little, I made myself aware that there's this little thread dangling down from heaven, and this little melody. So I reach up and I pull on the thread, and I keep pulling, and then there's more threads, and eventually it's like broadcloth, like all this material coming down from another source. And I have certain skills and talents, so it's my job to kind of take it and find what the beginnings and endings are, and kind of trim it and arrange it. But I didn't invent that. I mean, it came from a greater source, through me. And now most of the songs you're hearing have come this way, where I'll feel an energy moving, I'll go get silent, I'll listen, and just be ready. And it's a brilliant, amazing process. Now, you may not think you're a songwriter. You probably are and don't know it, because I've led songwriting workshops where no one had written a song, and they walk out going, whoa, because they all write songs. So just know creation can move through you in various ways. But maybe there are other parts of your life where you can just get still and listen or see. Maybe you need to visualize how you're going to design something or rearrange something in your house or whatever needs doing. But I know one thing that's universal. This is a universal question. It's God, what would you have me do? You have to ask for guidance. Let's go into that silence and see what we hear. It's a wonderful, vulnerable, surrendering process. To be willing to ask, to be willing to hear, and then to be willing to follow what you hear. And that's maybe another big rectal leap again with that one, because are you willing to trust what you hear? Like if you're going to ask God for an answer and you get an answer, are you going to sit there and go, do you have any other answers? Maybe there's a reason you heard that. Now, you might have this thought, like, well, what if this could create some problems? What if there's some bumps and bruises if I follow that answer? But you're already having bumps and bruises as it is anyway, aren't you? Why not make an adventure holding God's hand in the process? Has anyone here ever played with pendulums before?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Of course. Many years ago, someone showed me. If you don't know, there's this. It's kind of woo-woo, but the idea is that your higher self is speaking through you. Maybe it's like what's a kinetic? Was it something kinetics or whatever? I forget the name. The tested kinesiology. It's probably similar to kinesiology, where your higher self is communicating. So anyway, the idea is you get a pendulum. You ask a yes or no question. And you can test for it, but generally you're going to, like, clockwise will be a yes, counterclockwise a no. So you can test which one your higher self likes to say. So then I started playing with it, and so I just asked, not a life-changing question, but just see, and yes or no. Now, should I go to Italian? Yes, no. Should I go to Mexican? Yes. Should I go to the movies? Not going to. So, but then be willing to go with the answer. That's a crazy kind of freedom to say, wow, I'm just going to surrender to what my higher self is telling me. What a concept. So I would go, and then okay, we finished watching the movie. Okay, should we go to this? Yes, no. And just that willingness to surrender. And what I found after using that for a week, that something opened up in me. Was the willingness to ask, the willingness to hear, and the willingness to surrender to the answer. And then it was just in me. I could toss the pendulum, but the process was so beautiful. It's like that willingness to go with what you hear when you're asking for that higher guidance. I wrote a song that kind of speaks to this years ago. It's called "I Thank You." I love the third verse. It goes, "So I listen to your guidance, when and where you'd have me be. Then I place myself into your hands. And I do it gratefully. Gratefully. Be grateful that we can listen, we can ask, we can hear, and get guidance. Why wouldn't you be grateful for guidance? God, what would you have me do? Truly listen. Truly listen. So leap. What is your next stretch in service to be that turning point person for the next wave of people entering their spiritual journey? Look, how can we see more truly that we really are spirit and see that in each other's eyes, that soul-to-soul connection? And listen, to be available to guidance, to creation, to that greater source coming through and being a part of your life. So may you leap, look, and listen into this adventure called you. Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you.